Good afternoon. As part of our second series of our webcasts, I'm delighted this afternoon to be joined by Sarah Jarvis. Sarah is category buyer for corporate and financial services at YPO, which is the Yorkshire Purchasing Organisation. Thanks for joining us, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Great to talk to you. Could you start off by telling us a little bit about YPO?
Yeah, so YPO is a public sector buying organisation based in Wakefield, West Yorkshire. We were formed in 1974 by 13 local authorities based in Yorkshire and Lancashire. So it's the M62 corridor, really. And the good thing is these same local authorities are still our members today.
Okay.
We deal with a wide range of public sector customers. So these include educational establishments, local authorities, emergency services, charities, and any public sector organisation, really. We've got two sides of the business. We've got a product side. So customers will have probably seen our big catalogues that anything and everything that you can think of is featured in these catalogues.
And we've got your huge warehouse as well.
And the warehouse, yeah. So our product range is around 30,000. So in our warehouse, as you just mentioned, Emma, these can include items like pens, paper, cleaning products. So yeah, it is really anything and everything that schools, councils want, they can get from YPO. Also, we have other items which aren't in our warehouse, your larger items, so as made to order items, which can include furniture and your white goods as well. And these are items which are supplied directly from suppliers. And then there's the services side. So this is the side that I work in. And this is where we put frameworks in place for customers to call off. So we make it easier for them to put contracts in place. So one of the main things is it saves customers time and money on their procurement. We've currently got over 100 frameworks in our portfolio, which does include enforcement agency services, insurance, gas, street lighting. We've even got some food contracts as well. So tuna, that's a really, really big one for YPO. Tuna fish, yeah. I remember when that first went live, because I've been at YPO now 25 years next month. And when that first went live, it was the talk of YPO, a framework for tuna fish.
It's when you see emails come through the inbox and it says, we're looking for services for tuna. That's the one that gets talked around the office.
Yeah.
Something so specific.
Yeah, seriously. But our YPO's main aim is any profit that we make is returned to our members and our customers.
And that's public sector.
Public sector, yeah.
Perfect. So, I mean, we're here to talk about enforcement. So how are you making local authorities' lives easier to procure enforcement services?
So we've put in place an enforcement agency services DPS for customers to call off. So what a DPS is, it's the process of utilising a DPS supports transparency and fair analysis of the market, as it must be completely electronic, providing a full audit history. So it's a two-stage process. So if you remember, Emma, when we first went out, you were asked to complete the selection and mandatory questions. Yep. And then you submitted it to YPO, and then we evaluated it to make sure that you met our criteria.
Yeah, so that was references, wasn't it? And financial accounts.
Financial, health and safety policies, things like that. So it's your general things, making sure that you are a complying company. Then the second stage is where customers will go out and invite all awarded suppliers to participate in their further competition process, and if they think that it's a suitable tender for them, to provide a submission.
So how do you make it easier?
So now we've put this in place, we have worked with suppliers in the marketplace, and we've created documents to help customers write their further competitions. So what we've got is we've got a further competition template. We've also got a bank of optional award questions. So this is a list of all possible scenarios that a customer could think of, and it's there as a guidance. So I think there's about 80 questions in this bank, but we do recommend to customers that they only use 8 to 12 as a maximum, and it has to be specific to their organisation.
I think we have seen just once before somebody decided to use all 80.
Yes.
Luckily for me and my team, they decided to call back on those, and we ended up with just the normal 10 to 12 questions. But we can certainly see it's quite obvious when we see the documentation that it obviously is YPO documentation, because they tend to pick the same questions.
Yeah, and we do tell customers that it is a guide, it's there as a kickstart, but they need to make sure that they make it relevant to what their requirements are and what their outcomes is. We've also got a sample specification document as well, so if you're stuck of where to start, it's a good starting point. And also we've got suggested timescales as well, so from start to finish it will take round about 12 weeks. We have guidelines in there of how long it should be out in the marketplace. So depending on how busy it is with further competitions, I know a couple of years ago, Emma, 2019, it was absolutely crazy, wasn't it, for further competitions?
Do you know what? We've just had a really similar time. So my favourite saying at the minute is tenders are like buses. Yeah. So we've literally had, I think, 6 or 7 come out in a 10-day period, but we might not see anything for another few weeks. So
yeah, exactly.
I don't know why that is. I don't know whether you can shed any light on it, because they're certainly not all YPO tenders.
No, and I think with what's been happening the last 17 months, customers have had other priorities, like they've been moved to different parts of the council to help out with more priority things to do with COVID.
Yeah.
So we have seen that further competitions for this market has been really, really quiet, but now things are starting to get back to normal. We are getting an increase in inquiries, and further competitions are going out. So yeah, I mean our recommendation, depending on what it's like, you should be out for between 4 to 6 weeks. So that gives your suppliers enough time to read it, ask the clarifications that it needs, and then they've got enough time then to decide whether to put in a response, and a good response, because the last thing you don't want to do is to have it on a quick turnaround and then you don't get any submissions.
Yeah. So how many companies are on the DPS?
So we've currently got 26 suppliers that's awarded on there. So they're a mixture of national suppliers and local suppliers as well, that will only deal with certain regions. And because it is open for the life of the contract, this could increase. So we do work with customers who might have a local enforcement agent that isn't on the DPS, that before they go out, if they send all the details to us, we will speak to that supplier to try and get them awarded before they go out. So for customers, if they're not on, just let us know, pass my details on to your incumbent provider, and we'll start communication with that supplier.
And of course, that's the difference, isn't it, between the DPS and a framework? So I know there's quite often this misconception out there that once you're on a DPS, that's it. But that's a framework, isn't it? So framework is closed, a DPS is open over the life of the contract.
That's correct. Yeah.
So how many contracts have you let via this DPS?
So this DPS is just over 2 years old, and we've run 37 further competitions. As I mentioned earlier, 2019 was a busy year, and I think in that first year we had round about 25.
Yeah.
Really busy.
Is this the third enforcement DPS?
This is the third generation, third generation of the DPS. And the difference with this one to the other ones is, before customers was charged for accessing the DPS, where this time customers aren't charged, and the suppliers are charged a rebate of 0.5% on the different stages that you collect the debt.
Yeah, so, I know we provide a monthly management information report, don't we? Upload it to portal and you automatically invoice us.
Yes. Yeah, that's how that works. And we have seen that because customers aren't charged for it, we are getting a lot more inquiries and actually customers going through, which is good news because we're there to make customers' lives easier.
Is there anything else that the DPS gives you that makes lives easier for local authorities?
So I suppose rather than the DPS, it's about the support that YPO provides. So I know compared to some of our other competitors, the support that YPO provides is like nothing anybody else has seen before. So we've got all the template documents like I spoke about earlier. But also what we can do is before you go out to advertise your further competition, we'll read those documentations and we'll go back with guidance and from our experience of other customers, further competitions and going through the process. That is an option that's available to customers. Some take us up on it, others don't. It's completely up to each individual customer. But also what we can do is we can manage the customer's full further competition process.
Okay.
So what that means is we will advertise the customer's further competition via the YPO e-tendering portal.
Yep.
So once we advertise, it goes out to all awarded suppliers. What we then do is we do a lot of the admin side for customers. So we will manage all the clarifications. So once a day, we will send a clarification log over to the customer. So rather than them looking at say, for example, there's 10 clarifications raised that day, the customer will just get one email from YPO. Right. We send it over to them and then we don't answer the clarifications. It is down to the customer to respond unless it's something specific about the DPS and the tendering portal. But everything else is answered by the customer. The customer will then provide responses, send it back to YPO, and then we will upload onto the portal. And then the suppliers will get notification to say that there's a response to a clarification. Then what we do is once it comes to the submission deadline, after it's closed, we'll download all the submissions, let the customer know, and then we'll send individual emails to the customer for them with the submissions for them to evaluate. Once they've evaluated and they've come to the decision of the award, what we've got is we've got some template letters and we can provide that, but also what we do is we'll be like their third pair of eyes. So if they send over the letters along with their evaluation criteria scores, we can then do a double check to make sure that the scores that they're stating in their letters is correct, because the last thing that you want is for a letter to be sent to a supplier and it doesn't actually add up the percentage.
Most people get a calculator out when the letters come through. Yeah. Won or lost, they get the calculator. Has this been added up right?
Yes, and that's the first thing that when I've took over this contract, that's the one thing that I was picking up on, that it is hard and it is easy to do to put a scoring wrong, but it's so important to make sure that it's correct going out to the suppliers.
It's just another way that somebody might challenge
exactly.
Which we know happens quite regularly.
Yeah, so if we can do something to take that away from the customers of one step remove of it's reducing questions, clarifications, challenges, that's what we do. But again, it's down to each individual customer if they want us to do that.
So you can really tailor your service to exactly what they need and how much support they need.
So we can be as involved or as little involved as the customer wants. I mean, I know I've mentioned about YPO's e-tendering portal, but the customers don't have to use the YPO e-tendering portal. They can actually use their own.
Yeah.
So
we've seen that.
Yeah, and it does happen. And I know sometimes I get a call from you, Emma, saying, "Oh, do you know that so and so's out?" And I'm like, "No, but thank you for letting me know."
Take that one off the list.
But it's like I like to work closely with my enforcement suppliers, so having that relationship with you, Emma, really, really does help, because I know that if any further competition does come out and it isn't through YPO, you automatically make me aware. And
because there have been some, haven't there, I think.
Yeah, and I see it as a partnership, and like if if there's things that's happening in the marketplace, I know you'll tell me so I can pass it on to the customers. And it's about me being aware of what's going on so I can be up to date with customers and let them know what's going on.
Yeah, it's been working really well for us. We've been able to work in partnership on a few things, and
yeah,
you know, I know you send the customer pipeline around to all the suppliers, so we've got some visibility of the tenders that are coming out.
yeah.
Of course, there's always tenders that are just around the corner, and we're still waiting for them 6 months later. But
yes, and
procurement
yeah, it is, and we try where we possibly can to chase up as often as we can. So we might do a chase up with customers 2 to 3 times a year just to see where they are in the procurement. And sometimes there is delays, unfortunately, but yeah, wherever we can keep you updated, I will continue to do so for you.
Thank you. That's really, really helpful. So finally, do you have any advice for local authorities that might be watching this that need to procure their enforcement services? What gems of advice would you give them?
I'd make sure that they don't leave it until the last minute. Give yourself plenty of time. Like I say, it does take round about 12 weeks, but from what I'm seeing in the inquiries I'm getting, I do believe that this last half of the year will be really, really busy.
Yeah.
So the last thing customers want to be doing is leaving it until the last minute, seeing that it's really, really busy out there in the marketplace, and you're not giving suppliers enough time to respond, because if you do that, the chances are you won't get as many submissions as what you would do. I mean, on average, it does depend. Each customer's different, and it depends how attractive they are to enforcement agents. But on average, you can expect 6 to 10 submissions.
Yeah, that sounds.
Yeah. But I think by the time it gets to the end of this year, it will drop a lot because it is just so busy, and then enforcement agents will be actually having to make a decision of picking and choosing which one is more attractive for them. So make sure you engage, get in contact with me. I can talk you through all the documentation. I can send over the documentation to you. You don't have to actually use our template documentation. You can use your own. It is there as a guide. But yeah, make sure you give yourself plenty of time.
So local authorities wanted to get in contact with you or find out more about the DPS. How do they do that?
So you can see everything on the YPO website, which is www.ypo.co.uk, or you can drop me an email, which is enforcementagencyservices@ypo.co.uk.
Thanks, Sarah. We'll make sure that email address and that website are held when we publish this webcast. So it's been great talking to you, and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, thank you, Emma.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.